And away we go. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you happen to be in the world today. Welcome, one and all, to Coffee Talk. It is time once again for Coffee Talk Live, where we will be having some discussion about what's going on in the world today. We'll take a look at some clips from the news, share a little dialogue with those of you who are joining us for the live portion. And if you wanted to join the live portion and you're listening anywhere else, you can find us Monday through Friday, usually at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube. You can on at Coffee Talk Live and at Prepper University. You can find me on X at Coffee Talk Chat. You can find me on fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta, as well as Rumble Coffee Talk 2 on Rumble. I'm a little distracted because Monkey is tearing around up and down the hallway with his little toy spring, so I can hear it scraping and scratching all over the place. By the way, I took another punch in the jaw from YouTube today. Apparently, some kind of copyright strike on a video that I put up like 4 years ago. I swear they just saved that stuff to mess with me. They make it they make it so there's no joy in what you're doing. You know, they tell you all these things about how they're trying to protect the community. It's not other people on YouTube I need protection from, it's YouTube itself. They're the ones that are always bullying you and pushing you around and making the experience unpleasant and almost impossible in some cases. It's really awful. They really suck the joy out of it, and I think their goal is to make you not want to do it at all, just drive you off completely. It's horrible. It's horrible what they put you through with YouTube by default, Google by default, Alphabet Group, and so on. So get ready to jump in here, and I will say hello to some of the people that are joining us for the live portion. I see Helter is here, Marvel Fan, Raccoon, Brian, Dragon, Jeff, Sven. He suggests that Jesuit was never supposed to be a pope. I can't imagine the Cardinals have changed for the better. Country is here. Jimmy is here. John and Puck. Yeah, the thing though, also, don't expect much more out of the next guy, since the people that will be voting on this were installed by Pope Francis. So, yeah, don't don't expect much more out of the next guy unless there's a coup, unless there's some big political policy change within the church. Make no mistake, it is very, very political. It is very political, and very little of what they do is biblical. Period. Where in the Bible does it tell you that there should be a pope and he should be Christ's vicar on earth, i.e., the steward of the earth, taking the as it is in on earth, so as it is in heaven, so shall it be, out completely out of context, like the Pope says something and it's just as if he's speaking for God. Yeah, that the whole thing is not biblical. Nothing that they do, and by default, for the most part, Christianity as well, since most of what Christians do is rooted in Catholicism, whether they realize it or not. Puck says, read an article today where a bishop cited all of the atrocities committed against Christians around the world, and this dope said little or nothing about it. Of course not. As I have pointed out yesterday, he had a lot to say about papal hierarchy taking advantage of children, shall we say, before he became pope, and afterwards he didn't have much to say about it. He dropped that. Monkey has joined us as we get ready to jump in here. There is a couple of things to say about all of that before we jump into the nature of the thumbnail. The Brian says he thinks that hardcore religious people are freaks. Well, part of the problem is, again, they believe in the doctrine, and all they've ever learned is the doctrine of that church without any biblical knowledge or understanding. That's why people believe things that are church-ish, shall we say, Christianese, things that they believe that are actually not in the Bible. That, but they're convinced. You can't tell them anything, and that's all they've ever known. To be fair, that's all they've ever known. But you're not going to see anything really much in the way of negativity where the passing of the Pope is concerned. Although there's a lot of people out there that have a lot to say about the things he did and indeed the things he didn't do in a very negative way. But you're not going to see it in the media. You're going to get stuff like this. The Telegraph, a deeply loved and courageous Pope who enjoyed rocking the boat. Did he? Did he indeed? And take a look at his little prayer read to tell you how he lived in poverty. Look at the decadence of just the damn thing would stay expanded. Well, it won't do it. The decadence of just that room is insane. Absolutely insane. So here we go. And this is again a Telegraph article. Hold still. At the height of COVID, when most of us were hiding in our homes, we were forced. Pope Francis delivered a blessing in an empty St. Peter's Square. This was the man to a T. Courageous, heartfelt, and egalitarian. Excuse me. So he's courageous and heartfelt because he sat in an empty courtyard and said a prayer. That's what they're suggesting. This is how he's going to be. Every article I see, it looks like this. The pandemic has reminded us we are all in the same boat, he said. The storm exposes our vulnerability. And my goodness, did he enjoy rocking the boat. Francis' self-determined mission was to transform the Catholic Church into a field hospital that would meet people where they are without judgment and heal them with remedies of grace. For that, many Catholics deeply loved him. I can't tell. It seems to me like all he did was pander to climate change and pander to strange religions, as the church would say, which is forbidden in the Bible, by the way. So Christian humility or ostentatious modesty, his early call for a year of mercy was certainly spot on. The church's reputation, buffeted by scandal, was in tatters, and it needed to be made relevant to a fast-changing world. But this is the mistake also that many church organizations around the world have made. This is a huge mistake. It's called pandering to your audience. Okay? It's called pandering to your audience without any transformation. So these people end up changing that church instead of the church transforming them, which is also not biblical. And they use the excuse, and this is not biblical either, but they use the excuse, oh, well, Jesus was friends with prostitutes and friends with thieves and friends with tax collectors. No, nowhere in the Bible does it say he was their friend or their associate or anything like that. It said he would go and speak to these people, but he didn't pal around with them. And he warned his disciples about that. And you can find it in Matthew. God, where is it? Matthew 10:14, where he tells you to shake the dust from your feet, go out into the towns and talk to the people. And if you're not received there, right? Does he say be their pal and accept them as they are? No, shake the dust from your feet. It will be better for them. It would be better for the people in the days of Sodom and Gomorrah than for those people. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but you can look it up. Matthew 10:14, I'm pretty sure is where it is. But that you end up the church ends up changing instead of the person. And then you end up with a corrupt church. And a lot of those churches are in trouble for all of that now, and they're trying to walk it back, and it's too late. It's too late. And left. It's leftist, extremely leftist. Country says most true conservative Catholics think he was not following what we have traditionally believed and still do to this day. No, he wasn't. He wasn't. Not meeting with drag queens and propping them up. All People says, why are the leftists and liberals claiming J.D. Vance killed the Pope? I haven't heard that. He died because he was old and decrepit. He was 88 years old. He kept getting pneumonia. With all of the wealth from the church and all of the doctors that they had available to them, there's only so much they could do to keep propping the guy up, and his body eventually gave up. It eventually gave up. But these are the kind of stories that you're seeing about him. You're not going to see anything negative because the media protects him. The media is really protecting this guy. I guess because they don't want to cross the Catholic Church while everybody thinks Israel runs everything. This guy was shady. I'm sorry. And the media is protecting him. They're bending over backwards to not say anything negative about this guy. Bending over backwards to not cover any of that. I thought this was interesting while we're still talking about the Pope. And I'll tell you why. This is an AFP article. It says Pope Francis's unfulfilled wish was declaring PNG's first saint. And here he is pandering by wearing a chieftain's cap in the islands somewhere. Okay. In one of his final acts, Pope Francis cleared the way for Papua New Guinea to get its first saint, an anti-polygamy preacher who died in prison during Japan's World War II occupation. The late pontiff confided to religious leaders in the Pacific nation that he wanted to personally oversee the canonization of martyr Peter to Rot. Peter to Rot. Now the honor will fall to his successor. And the reason I think this is interesting is because it basically exposes essentially what's happening here is that Pope Francis basically wanted to make an island martyr. He wanted to make an islander saint so that he could be the first one to do it, which leads into the suggestion that they just make this shit up as they go. Oh, I really would love to have a Papua New Guinea saint. Who can we scratch up to possibly even fit that bill? What's the best we could do? What's the best we can come up with? Oh, some guy who wrote papers against polygamy who sat in prison in World War II. Is that the best we can come up with? All right, we'll run with it. They just saint anybody. We'll just make it up as we go. And then you have to wonder about all the rest of them. Yeah, Monkey says, yeah, for Matthew 10:14, in my interpretation, if you go to town and they aren't willing to listen to you, walk away and let them suffer. Yeah, don't bother with them. Don't keep at it. Don't act like them. Don't try to befriend them. Don't try to change anything to accommodate them. If they don't want to hear it, oh, fine, I'll see you, and leave. All People says many Catholics think that Francis was something that's called the anti-pope. Look it up. It's an interesting title. I know a lot of people were waiting for the other. Yeah, there you go. All People. I will read that one. He says Christ called the prostitutes and thieves to repentance. Christ did not call the prostitutes and thieves to party. Also, part of that repentance was that you were supposed to basically, when you accepted forgiveness, you're supposed to pledge to not repeat those mistakes, which you don't see that in modern Christianity or Catholicism at this point, where you're expected to, okay, people are allowed to just continue in whatever that lifestyle is that is a biblical sin, and they just, I guess, I'm hidden by the blood of Jesus, and I can just keep being evil. I can just keep being evil. And Justin Case has joined us. And Fluke Man says if Israel or Jews or in the West are running everything. How did they let Free Palestine protests get out of control? Well, because it was the Middle East states that were running that with all of the donations, which was revealed last year, all the billions of dollars worth of donations they were making to colleges and universities. Colleges and universities. Brian wants to know, is heaven and hell real? Uh, Heaven is real, hell not necessarily. When the Bible talks about Sheol, they're talking about what's essentially a waiting area, um, not an actual like place that you wait for eternity. Sheol is supposed to be a waiting area, the place of your ancestors. Heaven, biblically speaking, you don't go to heaven. You people think you die and you go to heaven, but a person's soul can't go to heaven. It's hard to explain. The Bible, I forget exactly where it is, but it says that when the earth is made anew, that heaven will be brought down to earth. A duplicate of heaven will be created on earth for people to dwell in. But we're not going anywhere. I wish my wife was here. She could explain it a lot better than I can. And as far as hell, it's more like you cease to exist. Even when they translate it in the Greek and they talk about Hades, it's kind of a bad explanation. That's more like the concept of Sheol from the Greek, because Hades in Greek mythology is not a hell, it's an afterlife, which still isn't really Sheol, because Sheol again is a waiting period. You sleep there. You don't know where you are until you're brought forward into the or reborn into the new existence. And All People says in the 60s, the cannibals of Papua New Guinea literally ate the son of New York Governor Rockefeller. Google it. It's shocking. Or choking. It says chalking is what you wrote, but that's just spell check. Yeah, and Peter, that's correct. Klaus Schwab quit. We read that yesterday. He quit, but don't worry. Someone just as evil will take his place. It'll be okay. Someone just as evil, even more with even more enthusiasm for destroying Western society, will likely replace Klaus Schwab. When I was talking about him yesterday, the thing blinked out on me. I was off, I think, for a couple of seconds there. Monkey says that sounds kind of like reincarnation. No, because you're not someone else. In traditional reincarnation, you come back and you're someone else or something else, and you don't remember necessarily your previous life. In Hinduism, if you were a bad person, you reincarnate as a lower creature with no memory. But if you are a good person, you advance into an enlightened state. Fluke Man wants to know where it says that. It's it's in it's in it's in the Revelation, I think. I'll look it up. I'll look it up and I'll tell you tomorrow. I was supposed to look up that other thing for you from Deuteronomy too. But I'll try to remember that and I'll look it up and I'll show you tomorrow about heaven coming or being reborn on earth when I forget how it's described. I forget how it's described. But yeah, I will try to follow that up. And I'll ask my wife. Like I said, she remembers better than I do where things are located. I'm better at context, like getting the point, and she's better at finding everything. So Vox.com. This is exactly what I'm talking about. How you can't talk bad about the Pope. Vox.com says American politics has poisoned how we think about the Pope. So it's not his actions, his doctrine, his viewpoints, or the things he said or did. It's American politics. if you don't like the Pope. That's why. It's American politics. It says if there's one succulent way to describe Pope Francis's stewardship of the Catholic Church over the last 12 years, it might be done with three of his own words: todos, todos, todos. That is, everyone, everyone, everyone. Francis, who died Monday morning in Vatican City, was both a reformer and a traditionalist. How can you be a reformer and a traditionalist? It's one or the other. You either want to change it or you want to keep it the same. Anyways, he didn't change church doctrine, didn't dramatically alter the church's teachings, and didn't fundamentally disrupt the bedrock of Catholic belief. Really? Catholics still believe there is one God who exists as three divine persons, that Jesus died and was resurrected, and that sin is still a thing. Only men can serve in the priesthood. Life still begins at conception, and faith is lived through both prayer and good works. But what about the rest of the Bible then? You believe all that's in the Bible. Okay, fine. But what about the rest of it? How does that incorporate the LGBT community? How does that incorporate drag queens? What's that got to do with climate change? What's that got to do with strange religions that he connected himself to? But this is what you're going to find. These are how all the stories look about this man. Like he is the greatest thing since sliced bread. And yes, once upon a time, there was no such thing as sliced bread. I know people don't understand that. That's an old expression. You used to have to cut bread by hand with a bread knife until they invented a bread slicer. And then you had to get them to slice it for you when you bought it at the bakery. And they would run it through the machine and make slices and put it in a bag. Incredible. But yeah, okay, you can still believe there is one God. But what about the rest of it? What about all the rules? What about all the things that are overlooked in modern Catholicism and in modern Christianity? But it's Western politics. That's the problem. Not Pope Francis's politics. Western politics and Western thinking. It's got you confused. Oh, well, they still believe there's one God. You know who else does? Muslims believe there's only one God. It ain't yours, but they believe it. They think Jesus was real. They don't care, but they think he was real. I mean, seriously. But that's what you're seeing. That's what you're seeing. But I'll go ahead and I'll get on to the thumbnail here. I'll get on to the thumbnail here. Yeah, that's what Puck says. So Francis embracing homosexuality is America's fault. Yeah, it's American politics because you just don't get it. You just don't get it. You just don't get it. And Spence says they gloss over the gospel. Without that, the rest of the book is just good examples and good examples of poor examples. Yeah, they gloss over it, and they always stay in the New Testament. They don't look at the Old Testament. But you know, in Yeshua's time, in Jesus's day, they didn't have a New Testament. Any reference that he makes is to the Old Testament as we know it. The Torah, that is. The Torah, that is. But yeah, I guess now it's just obsolete because no one wants to talk about it. Half of the reason that most of these people don't want to talk about it is because they don't understand it. Because, yeah, Fluke Man, Muslims believe that Jesus existed, but they do not consider him divine. If that makes any sense, he would fall in line as a prophet, if I remember correctly. So here we go. This is what I was talking about in the thumbnail. Newsweek article. Earth Day sees anti-Trump protests across the U.S. And that's the thumbnail that I used. I had altered it to put the moniker on there, but you see what's on here. This is Earth Day. These are your Earth Day celebrations. Look at the signs. Climate emergency, free all of the people sent to El Salvador, defy the death throne. Oh, defy dethrone. I read that wrong. Defy dethrone. No king in America. Climate justice is migrant justice. Do you remember when this was supposed to be about conservation? You remember that? Planting trees, not wasting electricity, not abusing natural resources. Don't throw your trash in the river. That's that kind of stuff. Do you remember those days? Now we get this shit. Due process, F yeah. Due process, they're not American citizens. That's this cardboard sign right here with the scales. Due process, F yeah. He covered up the FUC word, so at least there's that. Climate justice is migrant justice. You know what I think is ironic? When people have these like climate demonstrations, the mess they leave behind, all the trash they leave. So Newsweek again, we'll get into the article here. Marches, protests, phone banking events. What's phone banking event? I don't know if I'm familiar with that term. Film screenings and more centered around environmental activism are being organized across the nation for Earth Day, paid for by George Soros, I'm sure. Americans are taking to the street around Earth Day to voice discontent about the Trump administration's assault on climate. Earth Day protests have been occurring throughout the month, concurrently with other large protest movements, including the hands-off marches and Tesla takedowns. Are they still doing that? The protests, excuse me, are against the Trump administration's climate policies and climate change science rollbacks. And again, it's not a matter for me of not trusting the science. It's an issue of not trusting scientists. They are marching against the Congressional Republican Budget Reconciliation Plan, which, per the Union of Concerned Scientists, would roll back the very clean energy policies that have proven so transformational, to unlocking the next generation in the United States' economy. It cost us billions, and we got nothing out of that. The whole climate agenda. Yeah, country. There you go. Country says, what does climate and illegal immigrants have in common? I don't know. Maybe the mess they leave behind at the border. Have you seen how trashed the borders are? With human waste and discarded clothing and empty food wrappers and everything else you can think of? Oh my God. This is embarrassing. According to Earth Day activists, the IRA created 280 clean energy projects across 44 states, generating 282 billion in investments and nearly 175,000 jobs. That is misleading. Those operations were being fully funded by grants from the United States government. So that's where the investments were coming from. So that's your tax dollars that were paying for these so-called 280 clean energy projects that they can't demonstrate we're actually doing anything, which is why they're being shut down. They're useless. As far as 175,000 jobs, I have no idea. I have no idea if that's true or projections or what. In addition to protesting against Republican climate plans, organizers have three top-line demands: defend workers and democracy, lower costs for communities, and make polluters pay by placing higher taxes on oil companies and invest that revenue into clean energy. If you raise taxes on these companies, they're just going to increase their fees. They're just going to increase their fees. I don't know why people don't understand that. And until there's a viable alternative available, that's what you got. Go with it. Because solar and wind isn't working. It is not working. Activists are taking to the streets to demand investments in clean energy. In the same month, President Trump passed an executive order to restore coal production. You know why? Because it's cheaper and more efficient than wind and solar power. And many of you are aware, I did a full video on that, an independent video some months ago, demonstrating that using the United States Energy Commission's own website to make examples. The president has referred to coal as clean coal, as it can be extracted with fewer environmental effects. However, clean coal still releases toxic emissions when burned. So does producing batteries. So does all that mining for batteries, for all of these electric cars and all of the elements for solar panels. Where do you think it comes from? Have you seen where they mine this stuff? They're toxic wastelands. Toxic wastelands. Uninhabitable, with surrounded by dead animals. You can find the pictures on the computer where they mine the lithium and the other chemicals, which they use tons and tons of wastewater for, which causes further contamination. While you're complaining about possible gases from coal. Monkey said people took the day off basically to do this. Yes. Yes. Essentially, they took the day off so they could go out there and be angry for nothing. Peter said, go read the Climate Gate documents. You'll see climate change is a scam. Marvel says, I live in Jacksonville, North Carolina. I never see any of that BS here. Some try to start it up, but the police here won't have it. Being a big Marine Corps city, people don't mess around here. Well, that's good. That's good to know. It's good to know it's not taking place. Well, I can already tell you it's going to be in all the big blue cities is where that's happening. And most of the rest of the country doesn't care. Okay. The protests are organized around Earth Day, stretching from April 18th to April 30th. Given Earth Day is on a Tuesday this year, the largest mobilization event for the climate occurred on Saturday, April 19th. Although the National Day of Action was April 19th, there are copious events planned for Earth Day, April 22nd, including a rally in New York City. There you go. For the New York Heat Act, a priority law for New York environmental activists who say the bill will eliminate subsidies to the fracking industry and reduce energy bills, blah, blah, blah. It says, what? An Earth Day Fest in Muncie, Michigan, and screenings of The Jungle based on the Upton Sinclair book about food regulation in several states, including Iowa. Did they make a movie of The Jungle? And you know that movie, that book is not about food regulation, right? It's about socialism. Upton Sinclair. I mean, it's a well-written book, and you don't get what he's after until you get to the last chapter. But the book is supposed to direct you into thinking socialism is a good idea. And then it goes on here to tell you what Earth Day is supposed to be. Global Day for Collective Environmental Activism. No. That is wrong. Earth Day is a global day for collective environmental activism founded in 1970. That is not correct. Are they trying to change the definition? I wouldn't be surprised, because we've been seeing a lot of that the last couple of years. We've been seeing a lot of that. Sven says ultimately coal is cleaner than wind and solar. Overall, pretty much. Pretty much. Ryan says, is that part of why lithium batteries are bad? Because that's what's in probably every device now. Yeah, it is. The mining operation for lithium is a really, really horrible, um, really horrible operation. You look it up. Look at images of lithium mines. It's a hellscape. It's a virtual hellscape. But yeah, that's not what I recall the definition of Earth Day is supposed to be a day for activism. Let me see here. This definition says, annual celebration that honors the achievements of the environmental movement and raises awareness of the need to protect Earth's natural resources for future generations. That doesn't sound like, yeah, here's another definition: to demonstrate support for environmental protection. I don't know. I don't like the idea of it being for activism anyways, because I'm sick of activists. You know what an activist is? Someone that wants someone else to fix something. That's the definition of an activist. Someone who wants someone else to fix something, do something, change something. But they don't want to do it. And they don't want to change or give anything up. They want you to. They want you to. Like I said, these activists, look anywhere where they've had one of their demonstrations. When they leave, look at the mess that's left behind. You're complaining about climate, but you can't pick up after yourself? Shit. Yeah, there you go. Country says, I wonder if they all ride bicycles to the rallies. I doubt it. Sven says Marx's book and Mein Kampf were just chapters of whining because they suck and other people work for their money. That movie is no different. I haven't seen a movie. I didn't know there was a movie for The Jungle. I've read the book. And like I said, the book is well written. The book is well written, but you don't realize that it's about socialism until you get to the last chapter. And Monkey wants to know, was Earth Day started due to the Santa Barbara oil spill in 1969? That sounds right, but I'm not 100% sure on that. I'm not 100% sure on that. And Fluke says, shame we can't teleport activities to the African mines. Activists, I guess, to the African mines. We all know they'll wet their panties. Yeah. And Puck says, activists don't make their own beds. They don't make the beds at all. They just sleep on a dirty mattress. Because, you know, that involves chores. That involves housework. You would have to actually strip your sheets, maybe vacuum your mattress. Do you vacuum your mattress? You should. Flip the mattress over every once in a while. That's all work. That's work. These modern kids can't do that shit. Corruption time? Possibly. My favorite subject, corrupt politicians. Washington Examiner article, because I'm sure not seeing anything locally talking about Warnock. And I can't stand this guy. I cannot stand this guy. Warnock faces ethics complaints over rent-free stay in a $1 million residence. Raphael Warnock. who is a senator in Georgia. And again, I think he's a complete fraud. I think he's a complete fraud, Raphael Warnock. So an ethics watchdog is calling for an investigation into Senator Raphael Warnock after he failed to disclose free housing he had allegedly been provided in Georgia. And I find that fascinating that we're just now getting around to this, because when he won the election the first time around, I talked about it then, that he's still taking money from Ebenezer Baptist. They're still paying for everything for this guy. They're paying for his wardrobe. They're paying for his home. He's still living off of their freebies. And it's not been addressed. I brought it up then. So here we go. The Foundation for Accountability and Civic Trust, which is right-leaning, submitted a letter to the Senate Ethics Committee urging the panel to open an investigation into whether Warnock violated federal law and Senate ethics rules when he failed to disclose that he has been living in a home owned by, Ebenezer Baptist Church, where he still serves as a part-time senior pastor. Yeah, once every few months he makes an appearance at the church now and waves his hand. The Washington Free Beacon reported that Warnock moved into the home in 2023 and lives there rent-free. The complaint details the October 2022 purchase by the church for $989,000. It was marketed as an upscale retreat, boasting features such as a 100-bottle wine cooler or cellar, a Bluetooth integrated stainless steel stove, custom crown molding, walk-in closets connected to a European-style bathroom equipped with remote-operated privacy curtains. Not long after the purchase, Warnock began living there. Around the same time, he sold his former Georgia residence and bought another home in Washington, D.C. Quote, there are tax and ethics rules which allow for a senator to accept reasonable lodging or housing, but they are only acceptable in a narrow set of circumstances. They are not an open-ended loophole that can be abused, according to the director of the watchdog. Among other factors, it's critical that the value of the housing provided be commensurate to the work done, and then the value be disclosed. It's difficult to fathom any citizen could look at this situation, that is, a U.S. senator that is part-time employed by an organization which still pays him a salary and then happens to buy him $1 million home to live in for free after he was elected to Congress, and not think something could be potentially wrong with this. Senators are required to abide by Senate ethics rules, which allow for disciplinary action in response to any form of misconduct, even behavior unrelated to official responsibilities. The rule prohibits lawmakers from receiving anything of value unless a specific exemption is clearly met. Additionally, any such receipt must be publicly reported. These rules are designed to guard against ethical breaches, including conflicts of interest and corruption. This is why I should be making big money on this channel, because I found that out and exposed it like way back when he did it. But nobody sees this. I talked about it then. Some of you might remember that. They give him a big clothing allowance too. They gave him the house. It's $1 million home. $989,000. That's $1 million house. After closing costs and taxes, they paid over $1 million for that property. Okay. Luxury home in Georgia that he lives in, rent-free. The church is letting him have while he sells his regular house. Bought another house in the District of Columbia. He gets a clothing allowance for them. They're still giving him a salary. He ain't there. He shows up from time to time, make an appearance. Hi, I'm Raphael Warnock. Vote for me. Because Ebenezer Baptist has turned into a real political hotbed. It's all the prominent wealthy black families go there now so they can pretend to have a connection to Martin Luther King Jr. but it's extremely political. If any politician who comes to town, if they're a Democrat, is going to go there and speak. Bernie Sanders breezes through town, he'll be at Ebenezer Baptist. Maxine Water comes to town, she's going to go to Ebenezer Baptist, and they'll let her talk. And she can get as political as she wants, and they'll still keep their 501c3 somehow. But yeah, I talked about this a long time ago, but finally somebody is bringing it up. But this guy's no damn good. I don't trust him. Or I can't remember the name of the other senator we got stuck with. I don't like him either. But at least that guy you don't hear from unless it's an election. And this is their attempt to try to turn Georgia into a so-called blue state, which the Atlanta hub already is. So it may as well be a blue state. And the more blue Atlanta gets, the more of a shithole it turns into. It already smells like excrement down there. You go downtown Atlanta, it stinks. It smells like beer and shit. There you go. Country says if housing should be based on the work being done, he should live in a cardboard box. There you go. Oh my God. But must be nice. Must be nice. Living in the lap of luxury. Claims to be a Reverend Senator Raphael Warnock. I mean, I could go on and on. I neither like nor trust this man. But that's who they voted for, and you know why. You know why they voted for this guy. But he shouldn't be in there. These are the kind of people you don't need. And he's taken advantage of that church, but they're letting him do it because his presence draws those wealthy, elite black families to. Okay, here we go. Am I back? Did I say just one too many things about Raphael Warnock there? No, I didn't move. Because yeah, there's a comment down here. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Puck says, "Did you step on a cord?" No, I haven't moved. I haven't touched anything. It just went blank, and then I rebooted the page. Oh my God! Come here, monkey. Come here, monkey. Let me show you on the camera here so that I'll stop getting kicked off. Oh, I know, my friend. Here we go. Monkey cat. Can you hold still for 20 seconds? There's monkey cat. See, cats, YouTube, cats. Don't throw me off for saying Raphael Warnock's name. That happened to me yesterday when I was talking about Klaus Schwab. Oh my God. Oh my God. But I don't trust that man. I don't trust that man at all. And again, we know why he was hired and why Ebenezer Baptist does those things for him and covers for him. Because he's part of the draw. They want to keep those wealthy, elite black families coming to Ebenezer Baptist because it means big donations. And that money's more important than anything they're preaching, whatever their current doctrine is. whatever their current doctrine is, which I'm sure is far from biblical. Remember, Raphael Warnock is the one that had the police report for trying to run his wife down in his car. Reverend Warnock, not above running over his wife. He's also very pro-LGB, by the way. Very pro-LGB and very pro-abortion. Very much. And I wanted to get into Harvard University here really quick. Yeah, Puck says revoke the 501c3 status. In theory, they should. They should have their 501c3 status revoked because it is very political in that church. They talk politics a lot, which is a violation of the 501c3 charity status. It's for tax exemption. And again, they allow big celebrity politicians to come there and speak. When Hillary Clinton comes to town and she goes there, and she's been to that church several times, when she's up in the pulpit and they let her up on stage, do you honestly think she's talking about the Bible? Country says, I thought Baptist was against abortion. They should be, but I'm pretty sure I've heard him promote it. I know he's big on the LGBT community. Let me see here. Let me see what he says here. Here we go. Let me pull this up since you brought that up, Country, because you know I try to I talk off the top of my head, and I do try to cite what I'm talking about when I can. Here it is. Raphael Warnock on abortion, abortion background, pro-choice. Pro-choice. That decisions should be solely between a woman and her doctor. Quote, Reverend Warnock, Georgia says abortion is okay with the Christian faith. If that answers your question. So yes, I don't know about how the church claims to feel about it, but Warnock is pro. Yeah, and you can look that up. There it is. He's pro-abortion, pro-LGBT community. There you go, Peter. I'll put that up. So, and again, pro-abortion, pro-LGBT, because you see a lot of that mentality in downtown Atlanta. What do they call it? Five Corners. Is that part in Atlanta? Five Corners, where a lot of the gay community hangs out. I think I've been down there a couple of times. It stinks too, man. That place smells bad. Again, beer and puke and urine. The streets smelled like when I was down there. Puck says black churches seem to have a lot of fake preachers. Yeah, well, yeah, not just black churches, but I know what you mean. Brian wants to know if we saw Dead Bang with Don Johnson. Dead Bang. It sounds familiar, but I'm not sure if I've seen it. Is that the one where he's the cameraman or something else? Country says, just because your religion says one thing, people can believe another. Look at Catholic Biden. Yeah, indeed. Biden doesn't know what he was. According to Biden, he went to Catholic church, Jewish synagogue, and Black Baptist churches. I've heard him claim to go to all three. He must have been very busy on the weekends when he was a child. And JD says there's plenty of Joel Osteens. Yeah, have you ever seen Ted DiBiase's scam of a ministry? Ted DiBiase? $1 Million Man? I'm not sure if I saw that, Brian. He played a detective covering a cop murder case. I'm not sure if I remember that. So I might not have seen it. I might not have seen that. And Fluke Man says pro-choice. What about if the father wants it? No, you don't matter. You know full well men do not matter, according to the court. The courts and the way the law is structured is very matriarchal. I think we're all aware of that. I'm sure as hell aware of it. Oh, Monkey is in the chair. You can barely see him. He's so dark. He's back there getting comfortable. You see it in family court. Probably as much as 85%, it's going to lean in favor of the female. You see it with pregnancy. You have no rights. I mean, there's plenty of guys, I believe for sure, they would be happy. You know, you don't want it, give birth to it and give it to me and go away. And there's too many women that would rather just destroy it. Rather just destroy it. Peter says, how about giving that baby a choice? Yeah, there you go, Peter. That's the definitive question right there, Peter. That is the definitive question, Peter. Why not? The baby had no choice. Zero choice in the matter. Exactly. Exactly. Country says he's a man of all people. Biden, according to him, he is. According to him, he is. Nature Nerd says preaching to people helps the world more than the Catholic Church exercising an empty haunted building. Empty, haunted building. Exactly. The power of Christ compels you. You got to sprinkle that holy water. There's a lot of ritual in Catholicism. There's a lot of ritual in Catholicism. That's from The Exorcist, by the way, with the holy water. The power of Christ compels you. The power of Christ compels you. Oh man. Oh man. Anyways, oh, and Tuck is here. Tuck wanted to let me know he's here. He's just been listening. That's okay, Tuck. I know a lot of people are listening and don't see, and I know a lot of people watch this after the fact. More people see this after the live stream than ever join it. You know, which is fine. Which is fine. It gets out there. It doesn't get out there as much as I would like, you know. But that's just the way ScrewTube treats me. Like I said, I took a hit this morning. I checked my email, and they had given me a copyright strike on some video from like 4 years ago. It's like, what the hell? You just save them for a rainy day. Like, what can we do to David today? Hey, look what we found. Well, we had this in the back burner. Anyway, speaking of the back burner, we may as well hit up the debt clock. See where we are at here. Current Doge projection at $347 billion. And it looks like it'll hit at least 348 by the end of the day. That's good. Granny Smith. Granny Smith just came tearing into the room. I don't know if you heard that. Come here, darling. Let me pick you up. Let me pick you up, little monkey. Come here. I know you're not a monkey, but there she is. Little Granny Smith. What a sweetheart. Hi. Hi, darling. Little Granny Smith, the outdoor, born in the wild feral who, once she got indoors, decided she was never, ever going outside again. You can't get her near an exterior door. Isn't that right, darling? And I mean, it's some of these animals, the adjustments that they make, that they go through, like this one, you never would have imagined she was feral. Because look at this. Some of them go through such an amazing transformation, like Uncle. Uncle was a monster at first. And he just made a decision, I guess, at some point that, hey, I want to be an indoor cat. I want to be cooperative. You can bathe me. You can pick me up. Whatever you know. He's so cooperative now. Her too, right? Isn't that right? And some of them never adjust. Never adjust. I guess it's just a matter of how they feel. I guess it's just a matter of how they feel. But with that, we are at the top of the hour. So I will go ahead and start signing off. Again, you are listening to and or watching Coffee Talk, and you can find the live portion Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time most of the time on YouTube on Coffee Talk and Prepper University. You can find me on X at Coffee Talk Chat. You can find me on fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta. And so I will go ahead and sign off. Thank you, everybody, for joining us here today. As always, hope you got something out of the conversation. And we will catch you again tomorrow.